The late afternoon sun filtered through the display windows of Guden Heart jewelry, casting amber light across the rows of carefully arranged gold pieces. I straightened a particularly delicate filigree bracelet for the third time that hour, my movements precise despite the exhaustion settling into my bones. 6 years working retail had taught me that presentation was everything, even when your feet ached and your smile felt painted on. My reflection caught in the glass case. 32 years old, unremarkable features that Niels had made sure I understood were my greatest failure. Look at you, Sophie. You're too plain for me. You always were. His words still echoed 2 years later, a ghost that haunted quiet moments when my defenses were down. I'd given him 6 years. 6 years of adjusting myself to fit his standards, of enduring his critiques about my weight, my face, my very existence, while he slept with women he deemed more attractive. The discovery of his affair hadn't been the worst part. The worst part had been his laughter when I confronted him, as if my pain was the funniest joke he'd ever heard. Sophie, could you help this gentleman? He's looking for an anniversary piece. My colleague Maud's voice pulled me from the dark spiral of memory. I looked up to find a man in his early 40s studying our vintage collection with unexpected intensity. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a charcoal suit that screamed quiet wealth rather than flashy success. Something about the way he moved suggested a man accustomed to commanding rooms without raising his voice. Of course. I moved toward him, my practiced professional warmth settling over me like a familiar coat. Good afternoon. What kind of piece were you considering? He turned, and I found myself looking into eyes the color of steel, sharp, assessing, but not unkind. There was something almost predatory in his gaze, yet it didn't make me uncomfortable. Instead, it felt like being truly seen for the first time in years. Something meaningful, he said, his voice carrying a slight Dutch accent that suggested old Amsterdam money. Not just expensive, meaningful. It was a refreshing change from the usual customers who pointed at price tags rather than craftsmanship. I gestured toward our antique section. These pieces have history. Each one tells a story. Like you, he said, so quietly I almost missed it. My hand stilled over a Victorian brooch. I'm sorry? You have a story. His gaze was direct but not invasive. I can see it in how carefully you touch each piece, like you understand what it means to be valuable but overlooked. The observation was too close, too accurate. I'd spent 2 years rebuilding myself after Niels, 2 years learning to see my own worth after being told I had none. This stranger had no right to see through me so easily. My pulse quickened, not entirely from discomfort. The pieces speak for themselves, I said, keeping my voice professional. This brooch, for example, is from 1890, handcrafted by a master jeweler in Amsterdam. The detail work is extraordinary. See how each pearl is individually set? I'm Lars van Dyck. He extended his hand, cutting through my deflection with elegant efficiency. And I'm not really here for an anniversary gift. I hesitated before shaking his hand. His grip was warm, firm, respectful. A working man's hands despite the expensive suit, calloused in unexpected places. Then why are you here, Mr. Van Dyck? Because I've walked past this shop 6 times in the past month, and each time I've watched you treat every customer like they're royalty, even when they don't deserve it. A slight smile touched his lips. I wanted to see if you were real, or if I'd imagined such genuine kindness. Heat crept up my neck. This was either the most romantic thing anyone had ever said to me, or the opening line of a very elaborate scam. At 32, I'd learned the difference between charm and sincerity, usually. But there was something about Lars van Dyck that bypassed all my carefully constructed defenses. That's very kind, but I'm just doing my job. No. His voice was certain, absolute. You're doing something more. I saw you last week with that elderly woman who couldn't afford the necklace she wanted. You found her something just as beautiful at half the price and convinced her it was better. I remembered Mrs. Peterson, her arthritis-gnarled hands trembling as she counted out bills for her granddaughter's birthday gift. The commission would have been better on the expensive piece, but the joy in her eyes when she left had been worth more than money could measure. She was on a fixed income, I said simply. The less expensive piece suited her needs better. Lars studied me for a long moment, and I had the unsettling feeling he was cataloging every detail. The way I stood, the nervous habit I had of touching my grandmother's pendant, the shadows under my eyes from too many sleepless nights. Have dinner with me. I don't even know you. Then dinner is an excellent place to start. He pulled a business card from his pocket. I'm not asking you to marry me, Sophie, just to let me buy you a meal and conversation. The card was simple, elegant. Lars Van Dyke, private investment management. A phone number, nothing more. No flashy logo, no unnecessary information. The kind of discretion that suggested either old money or something darker. I should mention, he continued, his honesty almost brutal in its directness, that I have a somewhat complicated reputation in certain circles. If you look me up online, you'll find very little. This is intentional. I value privacy. The warning should have sent me running. Instead, it made me curious. Most men would have hidden that particular red flag behind charm and misdirection. Complicated how? I help people manage wealth that sometimes comes from uncomfortable sources. I don't ask questions I don't want answered, and in return, I'm very good at what I do. His gaze held mine, unflinching. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to feel deceived later. I'm not a good man by conventional standards, Sophie. But I've never lied to a woman I cared about, and I don't intend to start. My breath caught at the implication that he already cared, that this wasn't just idle flirtation. I should have said no. Should have smiled politely and sent him on his way. But something in his directness, his willingness to show me his shadows before asking me to step into the light, made me pause. After Niels, I'd promised myself I'd never ignore red flags again. But Lars wasn't hiding his flags. He was waving them openly, giving me the choice. That felt different somehow. One dinner, I heard myself say. Somewhere public. His smile transformed his face, softening the hard edges into something almost vulnerable. Saturday, 7 o'clock? There's a small restaurant near Prinsengracht that makes the best stampot you've ever tasted. Stampot on a first date? I couldn't help smiling. Not exactly romantic. Romance is overrated, he said. Comfort food and honest conversation are underrated. But if you prefer, I can take you somewhere expensive where we'll both pretend to be people we're not. Stampot sounds perfect. He nodded, satisfaction evident in the slight curve of his mouth. I'll text you the address. And Sophie? He paused at the door, turning back. Wear whatever makes you comfortable. I'm not interested in impressing other people. Just you. After he left, Maud materialized at my elbow, her eyes wide. Who was that? He looked at you like you were the most precious piece in the entire shop. Just a customer, I said, but my fingers touched the business card in my pocket, feeling its weight. No customer looks like that, Maud insisted. That was a man with intentions, serious intentions. She wasn't wrong, but as I returned to arranging the displays, my mind kept drifting back to steel gray eyes and the unsettling feeling that Lars Van Dyke had seen something in me I'd worked hard to hide, the broken pieces I'd carefully glued back together after Niels shattered me. The memory of my ex surfaced unwanted, vivid, and cruel. 6 years of my life given to a man who had criticized every aspect of my appearance while cheating with women he deemed more attractive. The final confrontation still burned when I let myself remember it, his laughter echoing in the hallway of the apartment we'd shared. You're too plain for me, Sophie. Too ordinary. Did you really think I'd stay faithful to someone like you? I'd walked away that night with nothing but my dignity and a determination to never again let someone else define my worth. The past 2 years had been about rebuilding, about learning to see myself through kinder eyes, about finding value in things beyond physical appearance. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. De Koper en Plug, Prinsengracht 287, Saturday, 7 p.m. Looking forward to it. L. Simple, direct, no games. I found myself smiling as I typed back, "See you there." Maud peered over my shoulder. "You're actually going out with him?" "It's just dinner." "Sophie de Vries, I've known you for 2 years, and I've never seen you look at anyone the way you looked at that man." She squeezed my arm. "Be careful, but also, be open. Not every man is Niels." The words settled over me like a benediction. Not every man is Niels. I'd been operating under the assumption that they were, that trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to take a calculated risk on something, on someone, who might be different. The rest of the week passed in a blur of ordinary moments, punctuated by unexpected texts from Lars. Nothing intrusive, just small observations. A photo of morning light on the canal with no caption needed. A quote from a book he was reading about the difference between price and value. A question about my favorite flower that felt like he genuinely wanted to know the answer. "Peonies," I'd texted back. "But they're impractical. They don't last long." "Beautiful things don't need to last forever to matter," he'd replied. The response had made me cry, though I couldn't have explained why. Maybe because Niels had always valued permanence over beauty, practicality over passion. Maybe because Lars seemed to understand something fundamental about treasuring things in the moment, rather than demanding they last forever. Saturday arrived with unseasonable warmth for late September. I stood in front of my modest closet, suddenly paralyzed by the simple question of what to wear. Lars had said to be comfortable, but what did that mean? The safe black dress felt like hiding. The blue sundress felt too hopeful, too vulnerable. In the end, I chose a simple cream sweater and well-fitted jeans, my grandmother's gold pendant at my throat. The only piece of jewelry I'd kept when I'd pawned everything else to pay for my tiny apartment after leaving Niels. Comfortable, authentic, me. De Koper en Plug was exactly as advertised. A small neighborhood restaurant with weathered wooden tables and the smell of home cooking wafting from the kitchen. Lars was already there, standing when I entered, wearing dark jeans and a navy sweater that made his eyes look even more intense. No pretense, no performance. "You look beautiful," he said simply. Not sexy, not hot, not any of the conditional words Niels had used when he wanted something from me. Beautiful, like it was a fact, not a negotiation. "Thank you." I slid into the seat across from him, my heart doing something complicated in my chest. "You were right about the smell. It's incredible. Wait until you taste the food." He signaled the waiter, who greeted him by name with genuine warmth, then turned his full attention to me. "Tell me something real, Sophie. Not the polite first date version. Something true." The directness should have been off-putting. Instead, it felt like relief, like permission to drop the mask I wore for the world. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Of this, of you, of what it might mean to let someone close again." "Good," he said, surprising me. "Fear means you're taking it seriously. I'd worry more if you weren't scared." "What about you? Are you scared?" He considered this, his fingers tracing the rim of his water glass in a gesture that seemed unconscious. "Terrified. I'm 42 years old, Sophie. I've never brought a woman to this restaurant. I've never wanted to share the parts of my life that matter. You scare me more than any business deal I've ever made, and I've made some very dangerous deals." The honesty was devastating in its simplicity. We talked through dinner, stamp pot that tasted like comfort and belonging, about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in Amsterdam, about a mother who taught him that wealth without character was poverty of the soul, about learning to navigate worlds that most people pretended didn't exist. I told him about my grandmother, about learning the jewelry trade from her careful hands, about how she'd taught me that gold was valuable, not because it was rare, but because it didn't tarnish, didn't change, remained true to itself no matter what. I didn't tell him about Niels. Not yet. That wound was still too fresh, too raw, too shameful. But when he walked me home through the quiet streets, his hand occasionally brushing mine in a question rather than a claim, I felt something shift. The walls I'd built so carefully were developing cracks, letting in dangerous light. At my door, he paused. "I'd like to see you again, but only if you want to, Sophie. No pressure, no expectations. If this was just dinner, I'll understand." "I want to," I heard myself say. "I'm still scared, but I want to." He smiled, and this time it reached his eyes, transforming his face into something almost boyish. "Then we'll be scared together." He didn't try to kiss me, just squeezed my hand once, gently, and walked away into the night. I stood in my doorway long after he'd disappeared around the corner, my hand still warm from his touch, wondering if I was making the biggest mistake of my life, or finally doing something right. 3 months into whatever Lars and I were building, not quite a relationship, not just friendship, I found myself in territory I'd sworn never to revisit. Vulnerability. We'd settled into a pattern of quiet dinners and long walks through Amsterdam. Conversations that stretched into the early morning hours at small cafes where he seemed to know every owner by name. "You're quite popular," I observed one evening, as another restaurant owner greeted Lars with warmth, usually reserved for family. "I help people when they need it," he said simply. "And I don't forget favors, which means they don't forget me either. It's how the world works, Sophie. Relationships built on mutual benefit tend to last longer than those built on sentiment alone." The cynicism in his words should have troubled me. Instead, I found it refreshing after years of Niels's empty romantic gestures that had meant nothing. Lars was honest about his transactional view of the world, which somehow made his attention to me feel more valuable. He didn't have to spend time with me. He chose to. We were walking along the Herengracht when he asked the question I'd been dreading. "You've never talked about your past relationships. Why?" I stopped, looking out at the canal where autumn leaves floated on dark water. "Because it's not a pleasant story. Most true stories aren't." He stood beside me, not touching, but close enough that I could feel his warmth. "But I'd like to know anyway, if you want to tell me." The gentleness in his voice undid something in me. I found myself talking about Niels, about the 6 years of criticism and infidelity, about the final cruel laughter when I'd confronted him. Lars listened without interruption, his expression growing progressively darker. "His name," Lars said when I finished. "I want to know his name." "Why?" "Because I want to know who made you believe you were ordinary." His voice was quiet, controlled, but there was steel beneath it. "You're the furthest thing from ordinary I've ever encountered, Sophie. You're extraordinary, and I need to know the name of the man too stupid to see it." "Niels Becker," I said before I could stop myself. "But Lars, please don't." "I won't do anything," he promised. "Not without asking you first. But I remember names, Sophie. I remember everyone who hurts people I care about." The casual way he included me in that category, people I care about, made my chest tighten. We'd been careful about labels, about defining what we were to each other. But in that moment, standing on the canal bridge, I realized I was falling for him. Falling for a man who operated in shadows, who had connections I didn't fully understand, who might be dangerous in ways I was choosing not to examine too closely. "I care about you too," I whispered. He turned to me then, cupping my face with hands that were surprisingly gentle for someone so clearly capable of violence. "I want to kiss you." I've wanted to kiss you since that first day in the jewelry shop, but I need to know you're ready. I answered by leaning into him, and when his lips met mine, it felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. The kiss was slow, thorough, claiming me in ways that had nothing to do with possession and everything to do with recognition. He kissed me like I was precious, like I mattered, like I was worth the wait. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing harder, he rested his forehead against mine. "Stay with me tonight. Not for sex," he added quickly. "Just stay. Let me hold you. Let me prove that not every man will hurt you." I should have said no. It was too soon, too fast, too risky. But I was tired of being safe, tired of protecting myself from possibilities. "Yes," I said. "I'll stay." His apartment was exactly what I'd expected. Minimalist, expensive, impersonal, except for one wall covered in photographs. Family, I realized. Parents, siblings, nieces and nephews. The hardened businessman had a soft center after all. He gave me one of his shirts to sleep in, the fabric soft and smelling of his cologne. We lay together in his bed, fully clothed, his arms wrapped around me from behind. It was the most intimate I'd been with anyone since Neil's, and it felt nothing like those years of hollow connection. "Tell me about your family," I said into the darkness. He did, his voice rumbling through his chest against my back. He told me about losing his father young, about stepping into a world of questionable morality to provide for his mother and sisters, about choices made out of necessity that became a lifestyle he could never fully escape. "Do you regret it?" I asked. "The path you took?" "I regret that it cost me a normal life," he admitted. "Marriage, children, the things most people take for granted. I couldn't bring that danger to someone I loved. Until now." His arms tightened around me. "You make me want to be selfish, Sophie. You make me want things I swore I'd never have." I turned in his arms to face him, our noses nearly touching in the darkness. "What if I want those things too? What if I don't care about the danger?" "You should care," he said, his voice rough. "You should run from me as fast as you can. I'm not a good bet for happily ever after." "Neither am I," I replied. "I'm just a jewelry shop girl with an ex who thought I was too plain to love. We're both broken, Lars. Maybe that's exactly why this works." He kissed me again, slower this time, deeper. "You're not broken," he murmured against my lips. "You're wounded. There's a difference. Broken things can't be fixed. Wounded things heal." I fell asleep in his arms that night, feeling safer than I had in years. When I woke, he was already up, standing by the window with his phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Dutch that I couldn't quite follow. He noticed me watching and ended the call abruptly. "Business," he said apologetically. "It doesn't sleep, unfortunately." "It's okay. I should probably get home anyway. I have an early shift." He drove me home in his Mercedes, the kind of understated luxury that screamed serious money. At my door, he hesitated. "Sophie, I want to be honest with you about something. My business is expanding. I'm taking on clients that my colleagues think are too risky. It means more money, but it also means more visibility, more danger. Why are you telling me this? Because if we're going to do this, really do this, you need to understand what you're signing up for. There will be times I can't tell you where I am or what I'm doing. Times when you'll have to trust me even when it doesn't make sense. And there will be people who try to use you to get to me. The warning should have terrified me. Instead, I felt oddly calm. I trust you, I said simply. I don't know why, but I do. His smile was devastating. Then we'll figure it out together. Over the next few months, we fell into a rhythm. I worked at the jewelry shop, learning more about appraisals and antique pieces, building relationships with collectors and dealers. Lars worked at whatever mysterious business occupied his days, meeting me for dinners and quiet evenings at his apartment, where we talked for hours about everything and nothing. He was attentive in ways I'd never experienced. He remembered my favorite foods, brought me books he thought I'd enjoy, listened with genuine interest when I talked about the intricacies of goldsmithing. He never criticized my appearance, never suggested I change anything about myself. Instead, he looked at me like I was already perfect. It was during one of our evening walks that I first felt the pain, a sharp, stabbing sensation in my abdomen that made me double over. Lars caught me before I could fall, his face going white. "Hospital," he said. "Now." "It's probably nothing," I tried to protest, but another wave of pain cut off my words. He carried me to his car, drove with terrifying precision through Amsterdam traffic, stayed by my side as doctors ran tests and asked questions. The diagnosis came hours later, a benign ovarian cyst that needed surgical removal. Common, treatable, but requiring a procedure I couldn't afford on my jewelry shop salary. "I'll take care of it," Lars said immediately. "You can't just—" "Sophie." His voice was gentle but firm. "Let me do this. Please." I wanted to argue, wanted to maintain my independence. But the truth was I was scared, and the relief of having someone to lean on was overwhelming. "Okay," I whispered. "Thank you." He arranged everything. A private room, the best surgeon in Amsterdam, recovery care that felt more like a luxury hotel than a hospital. When I woke from the surgery, groggy and disoriented, he was there, holding my hand. "You scared me," he said softly. "Don't do that again." "I'll try," I managed, my voice thick from anesthesia. During recovery, confined to his apartment because he refused to let me return to my tiny place alone, I found myself thinking about the body I'd always been self-conscious about. Niels's cruel words echoed in quiet moments. Too plain, too ordinary, not enough. "Lars," I said one evening as we sat together, my head on his shoulder, "would you think I was vain if I wanted to change some things about myself?" He pulled back to look at me, his expression serious. "What kind of things?" "Just small procedures. Nothing dramatic. I've been thinking about it since before I met you." The lie felt necessary. I had been thinking about it, but meeting someone who looked at me with appreciation had made the desire stronger, not weaker. "I want to feel confident in my own skin." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out, framing my face with his hands. "Sophie, I think you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Right now, exactly as you are. If you want to change things for yourself, because it would make you happy, then I'll support you completely. But if you're doing it because you think you're not enough," his voice roughened, "you're already more than enough. You're everything." Tears spilled down my cheeks, and he wiped them away with his thumbs. "Do it if it's for you," he continued. "Not for me, not for anyone else, but know that I already see you as a masterpiece." The procedures were subtle, a slight refinement to my nose, better contouring to my face, small changes that didn't transform me but enhanced what was already there. Lars was there through all of it, never questioning my choices, always supportive. "How do I look?" I asked nervously when the swelling finally subsided. He studied me carefully, then smiled. "Like Sophie. Just a slightly more confident version. You were beautiful before, and you're beautiful now. The only difference is that now you seem to believe it too." He was right. Looking in the mirror, I finally saw what he'd apparently seen all along. Someone worthy, someone valuable, someone enough. Our relationship deepened into something that felt permanent, inevitable. He asked me to move into his apartment, and I said yes. He introduced me to his family, and they welcomed me with surprising warmth given my humble background. His mother pulled me aside at a family dinner. "You're good for him," she said in Dutch-accented English. "He smiles now. Real smiles, not the business ones. Thank you for that." "I love him," I admitted, saying it out loud for the first time. "I know," she replied, her eyes twinkling. "And he loves you, even if he hasn't found the courage to say it yet." But he did say it, one quiet evening as we sat together watching the canal lights reflect on the water. "I love you, Sophie de Vries. I'm not sure when it happened, but somewhere between that first day in the jewelry shop and now, you became the most important thing in my life. I love you too," I whispered, and we sealed the words with a kiss that promised futures we were both ready to claim. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. I'd been promoted to senior sales associate at Gowden Hart, developing a reputation for my eye for quality and my ability to connect collectors with perfect pieces. Lars's business continued to thrive in ways I deliberately didn't ask about too closely. We were happy in a way that felt hard-won and therefore more valuable. Which is why, when Niels Bakker walked into the jewelry shop on a Tuesday afternoon with a woman on his arm, my whole world tilted sideways. I was behind the counter, completing paperwork for a particularly valuable antique purchase, when I heard his voice. "This shop looks decent. Let's see if they have anything worthy of you, darling." I looked up, and our eyes met. His widened in recognition, then narrowed with something that looked almost like disgust. The woman on his arm was beautiful in a conventional way. Tall, blonde, the opposite of me in every respect. "Sophie?" He said my name like a question, like he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. Then, his gaze traveled over me, taking in the changes, the confidence, the expensive blouse Lars had bought me. "My God, what happened to you?" "Hello, Niels," I said, keeping my voice professional despite my racing heart. "Can I help you find something?" He laughed, that same cruel laugh from 2 years ago. "You look different. Who paid for your surgery? Some desperate man finally settled for you?" The words should have hurt. 2 years ago they would have destroyed me. But now, with Lars's love as armor, they bounced off. "Is there something specific you're looking for, or are you just browsing?" "I'm serious," he pressed, moving closer to the counter. His girlfriend looked uncomfortable, tugging at his arm. "What kind of idiot would waste money making you into something you're not? You're still just plain Sophie underneath all that work." The door chimed, and I looked up to see Lars walk in. He'd said he might stop by during his lunch break, a habit he'd developed over the months we'd been together. His eyes found mine first, his smile automatic, then shifted to Niels. His expression went cold. "Good morning, my love," he said, moving to my side of the counter and kissing my temple with casual possessiveness. "Sorry I'm late. That meeting ran longer than expected." Niels's mouth fell open. You two. Lars looked at him properly for the first time, his gaze assessing and finding Niels lacking. "I'm sorry. Have we met?" "This is Niels Bakker," I said, my voice steady. "An old acquaintance." Ah, Lars's smile was all teeth, no warmth. The man who didn't know what he had. How unfortunate for him. He turned his full attention to me, dismissing Niels as thoroughly as if he'd ceased to exist. "Are you free for lunch, or should I come back later?" "I can take a break," I managed, still processing the confrontation. As we moved toward the door, Niels's voice followed us. "You think you're special now? You think some suit makes you better than what you were?" Lars stopped, turned slowly. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, deadly. "Sophie was always special. It's not her fault you were too blind and stupid to see it. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have lunch plans." We left Niels standing there, his girlfriend looking mortified. Outside, Lars pulled me into his arms. Are you okay? I am, I realized. I really am. He can't hurt me anymore. No, Lars agreed. He can't. Because you finally see yourself the way I've always seen you, as extraordinary. The encounter with Niels should have been a footnote, a brief, uncomfortable moment that passed without consequence. But that night, as Lars and I shared dinner at his apartment, I noticed him watching me with an intensity that went beyond his usual attentiveness. His fingers drummed against his wine glass in a pattern I'd learned meant he was thinking through a problem. What is it? I asked, setting down my fork. Tell me everything about Niels Bakker, he said. Not just what he did to you. Everything you know about his work, his life, his connections. A chill ran through me. Lars, I told you I didn't want revenge. I don't want to become like him, vindictive and cruel. This isn't about revenge. His voice was calm, measured. But when someone threatens what's mine, I gather information. It's how I've survived in my world for 20 years. He reached across the table, taking my hand. I'm not going to hurt him, Sophie. I promise you that. But I am going to make sure he can't hurt you again. I wanted to argue, but part of me, the part that still woke from nightmares of Niels's laughter, wanted him dealt with. He works in real estate development, mid-level management at some firm downtown. He was always looking for shortcuts, ways to make more money faster. Lars nodded, his expression thoughtful. What else? Over the next hour, I told him everything I could remember. Niels's bragging about cutting corners on building inspections, his connections to city officials who looked the other way on code violations, the way he'd always seemed to have more money than his official salary could explain. At the time, I'd thought it was just posturing. Now, with Lars's careful questions, I began to see patterns I'd missed. He was taking bribes, Lars said finally, or facilitating them. Probably both. You can't know that for certain. His smile was slight, knowing. Sophie, I've spent 2 decades in the gray areas of finance. I recognize the signs. Your ex-boyfriend is a small-time criminal who thinks he's clever. He paused. And small-time criminals make mistakes. They get sloppy because they underestimate people they consider beneath them. What are you going to do? Nothing illegal, he promised. But I am going to make some phone calls, call in some favors. If Niels Bakker has been breaking laws, the truth should come out. Not as revenge, but as justice. I should have stopped him. Should have insisted we take the high road, that we move on with our lives and forget Niels existed. But the truth was, I wanted him to face consequences for once. Not just for what he'd done to me, but for all the other rules he'd broken thinking himself too clever to be caught. Okay, I said quietly, but promise me you won't do anything that could hurt you, that could bring trouble to your door because of me. He stood, moving around the table to pull me into his arms. The only trouble Niels Bakker could bring me is if I let him continue to make you doubt yourself, and that I won't allow. True to his word, Lars made calls. I didn't hear most of them, but I saw the aftermath. 3 weeks after the encounter at the jewelry shop, news broke about a massive investigation into building code violations and bribery in Amsterdam's real estate sector. Niels's firm was at the center of it, with several mid-level managers named in the initial reporting. Did you do this? I asked Lars over breakfast as I read the news on my tablet. I made phone calls to people I know who investigate financial crimes, he said carefully. I suggested they look at patterns in building permits and inspection records. What they found from there was entirely their discovery. The evidence was always there, Sophie. Someone just needed to know where to look. Within a month, Niels was fired. Within 3 months, he was facing charges. Within 6 months, his girlfriend had left him. His reputation was destroyed, and he'd been forced to sell his apartment to pay legal fees. None of it involved violence. None of it was fabricated. Lars had simply pulled back the curtain on what Niels had already done, and let the consequences unfold naturally. Do you think I'm a terrible person for feeling satisfied? I asked Lars one evening, as we watched the sunset over the canal. I think you're human, he replied, and I think you're entitled to feel satisfied when someone who hurt you faces consequences for their actions. As long as it doesn't consume you, as long as you can still move forward with your life. I can, I assured him, because I have something better to focus on. Us. Our future. He pulled me closer, his lips brushing my hair. About that future. I've been thinking. My heart began to race. We'd been together nearly a year now, and while we'd talked abstractly about forever, we'd never made concrete plans. Thinking about what? About permanence. About making this official. He pulled back to look at me, his expression serious. Sophie, I've never wanted to marry anyone. Never wanted to risk someone becoming a target because of my connections. But with you, the risk of not having you as my wife feels greater than any danger I could bring to your door. Lars, wait, he interrupted gently. Let me finish. I know I'm not an easy man to love. I know my business operates in shadows you'd probably prefer to never understand fully. I know that being with me means accepting a life that's not entirely conventional. He reached into his pocket, withdrawing a small velvet box. But I also know that every day with you is better than any day before you. And I don't want to spend another day without you being my wife. He opened the box, and I gasped. The ring was exquisite. A vintage piece, probably from the 1920s, with a center diamond surrounded by delicate gold filigree work that reminded me of the pieces in my grandmother's collection. It's an antique, he said, from an estate sale. The moment I saw it, I thought of you. Beautiful, timeless, valuable beyond what most people could see at first glance. Tears streamed down my face. It's perfect. You're perfect. Yes, Lars. Yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto my finger with hands that shook slightly, betraying his emotional investment in my answer. Then, he kissed me with a passion that spoke of relief and joy and promises for all the days ahead. We married 6 months later, in a small ceremony at a historic canal house, surrounded by our families and closest friends. I wore a simple cream dress that reminded me of the sweater from our first date. Lars wore a navy suit. We exchanged vows that promised honesty, support, and love through whatever complications our unconventional life might bring. Maud from the jewelry shop was my maid of honor. She whispered to me before I walked down the aisle. I knew from that first day he was something special. The way he looked at you, like you were the only valuable thing in the entire shop. He makes me feel that way every day, I admitted. The reception was intimate, held at the same restaurant where Lars had taken me for stamp pot on our first date. His mother gave a toast that made me cry, talking about how she'd never seen her son truly happy until he met me. My father, who had flown in from Spain where he'd retired, welcomed Lars into our family with a warmth that spoke of genuine approval. He's a good man, my father said later, pulling me aside. Different from what I imagined for you, but good. He looks at you like you're precious. That's what matters. Our honeymoon was spent in Italy, in a small villa on the Amalfi Coast that Lars had rented for 2 weeks. We slept late, ate amazing food, made love with the windows open, and the sound of the sea providing a soundtrack. It was perfect in a way I'd never imagined my life could be. I'm designing our wedding bands, I told him one morning, as we sat on the terrace overlooking the Mediterranean. If that's okay with you. I'd be honored, he said, kissing my shoulder. What kind of design? Simple, classic. Gold that doesn't tarnish, doesn't change, stays true to itself no matter what. I turned to look at him. Like us. Like what we are to each other. His smile was radiant. Perfect. Just like you. We returned to Amsterdam tanned and relaxed, ready to start our married life. I'd been promoted to manager at Guden Hart, with Maud taking over my previous position. The owner, seeing my eye for quality and my connection to high-end collectors through Lars, had given me increasing autonomy over purchasing and client relationships. I'm thinking of offering you a partnership, Mr. Vanderberg said 3 months after my wedding. You've brought in more business in the past year than we've seen in the previous 5. You have an eye for pieces that others overlook, and you've built relationships with collectors who trust you implicitly. I stared at him, stunned. A partnership? I don't have the capital to... We'll work out terms, he interrupted. Payment plan, percentage of profits, whatever makes sense. But Sophie, you've transformed this business. I want to make sure you have a stake in its future. When I told Lars that evening, he swept me into his arms and spun me around his apartment. Our apartment. I'm so proud of you, he said. You did this on your own merit, with your own talent. This is all you, Sophie. You helped, I protested. The connections, No. He cut me off firmly. I may have introduced you to some collectors, but what you did with those introductions is all your talent. You earned this. Don't diminish your accomplishment. His pride in me, his refusal to let me attribute my success to him, made me love him even more. We celebrated that night, making plans for a future that felt limitless. Life wasn't perfect. Lars's business occasionally took him away for days at a time, and there were phone calls he couldn't discuss, and meetings I knew better than to ask about. But he always came home to me, always made me feel like the center of his world, always treated me like I was the most valuable thing he possessed. On our first anniversary, he surprised me with a trip back to the same villa in Italy. I want to spend every anniversary here, he said, as we watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and rose. I want to remember every year how perfect this first year has been. It has been perfect, I agreed. Even with the complications. Especially with the complications, he corrected. Because we've navigated them together. That's what marriage is, Sophie. Not avoiding problems, but facing them as a team. I turned to face him, the setting sun casting his features in warm light. I love you, Lars van Dijk, more than I ever thought possible. I love you too, he replied, my beautiful wife, my partner, my everything. As we stood together on that terrace, golden light surrounding us, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. From Niels's cruel laughter to Lars's gentle devotion. From doubting my own worth to seeing myself through eyes that recognized my value. From being alone and afraid to being cherished and protected. The scars from my past hadn't disappeared. There were still moments when I heard Niels's voice in my head, still times when I doubted myself. But Lars was always there, consistently showing me through actions and words that I was enough, that I was valuable, that I was loved exactly as I was. What are you thinking about? Lars asked, his arm around my waist. About how far I've come. About how grateful I am that you walked into that jewelry shop and saw something in me I couldn't see in myself. He turned me to face him fully, his hands framing my face. Sophie, I saw what was always there. You just needed someone to hold up the mirror until you could see it too. That's all I did. Everything else, your success, your confidence, your beauty, that was always you. I just had the privilege of watching you discover it. His words settled into my heart, healing old wounds I'd thought would never fully close. This was love, I realized. Not someone trying to change you or criticize you. but someone seeing your inherent worth and reflecting it back until you believed it yourself. "Thank you," I whispered, "for everything, for choosing me, for fighting for me, for loving me. Thank you for letting me," he replied, "for trusting me enough to build a life together, for seeing past my rough edges to the man underneath, for making me want to be better." As the sun completed its descent and stars began to appear in the darkening sky, we held each other. Two people who had found in each other exactly what they needed. Not perfection, but partnership. Not rescue, but recognition. Not transformation, but acceptance. The future stretched ahead, full of possibility and promise. And whatever it held, I knew we would face it together. The jewelry shop girl who had learned her own worth, and the businessman with shadows in his past who had taught her to see herself clearly. Together, we were more than the sum of our parts. We were everything. 2 years into our marriage, life had settled into a rhythm that felt both exciting and comforting. I was now a full partner at Gowden Hart, having bought into the business with a combination of my savings and a loan from Mr. Vonderberg that I was steadily paying back. Lars's business had shifted subtly over time, not abandoning his connections entirely, but moving toward more legitimate investments, cleaner money, fewer questions he couldn't answer when I asked about his day. "I'm tired," he admitted one evening as we prepared dinner together in our apartment. "Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of relationships built on mutual fear rather than mutual respect. I want something different for our future." "What kind of different?" I asked, chopping vegetables for the stamp pot he'd insisted on making. "Legitimate. Clean. Something I could tell our children about without having to dance around the truth." He paused, his knife stilling. "If we decide to have children, that is. We've never really discussed it." My heart skipped. We'd been so focused on building our careers and relationship that we'd never explicitly talked about family. "Do you want children?" "With you, yes." His voice was certain. "I want to build something that lasts beyond us, Sophie. A family. A legacy that isn't about money or connections, but about love." I set down my knife and moved to him, wrapping my arms around his waist from behind. "I want that too. Not right away, maybe. But someday." He turned in my arms, kissing my forehead. "Someday soon, perhaps. We're not getting any younger." "Speak for yourself," I teased. "I'm only 34. "And I'm 44, he replied with mock seriousness. "Practically ancient. If we're going to do this, we should probably start before I need a walker to chase after them." We laughed together, and the conversation shifted to other things. But the seed had been planted, the possibility of expanding our family from 2 to more. It made me look at our life differently, imagining tiny voices in our apartment, toys scattered across the pristine floors, the beautiful chaos of children. That spring, Lars made good on his promise to legitimize his business. He began consulting for financial firms, using his knowledge of international markets and complicated transactions in ways that were entirely legal. The transition wasn't seamless. Some of his old contacts felt betrayed, others simply faded away, but he navigated it with the same strategic thinking he'd always applied to his work. "I'm proud of you," I told him one evening, as he recounted closing a particularly challenging deal. "It takes courage to walk away from what you know, even when it's the right thing to do." "I'm walking toward something better," he corrected. "Toward a future where I can look my wife in the eye without wondering if she'll ever discover something that makes her leave. Toward becoming someone worthy of the family we might build." His vulnerability in those moments always undid me. This powerful man who had controlled so much of his world was willing to be uncertain, to be imperfect, to be human with me. At the shop, I was developing a reputation not just for my eye for quality, but for my ability to connect pieces with their perfect owners. There was something about understanding what people valued, what stories they wanted their jewelry to tell, that came naturally to me. Perhaps it was all those years with my grandmother, learning that gold wasn't just metal, but meaning. One afternoon, a young couple came in looking for engagement rings. The woman was clearly nervous, twisting her hands, barely meeting my eyes. The man was patient, encouraging, clearly in love. "We don't have a huge budget," he admitted, "but I want something special for her, something that shows how much she means to me." I thought of Lars, of how he'd chosen an antique ring that spoke to who I was, rather than buying the most expensive thing in the case. "Let me show you some pieces that might work." I guided them through our collection, watching their reactions, seeing what made her eyes light up. Finally, she paused over a simple gold band with 3 small diamonds in a vintage setting. "This one," she whispered. "It's perfect." It was one of our least expensive pieces, but her joy was genuine. I rang up the sale at cost, something I could do as a partner. When they left, her hand in his, both beaming, I felt a satisfaction that went beyond commission. "You gave that to them at cost," Maud observed, having watched the whole transaction. "I know. Don't tell Mr. Vanderberg," she smiled. "He'd approve, actually. That's why he wanted you as a partner. You understand that our real business isn't selling gold. It's helping people mark the moments that matter." Her words stayed with me. That evening I told Lars about the couple, about the way their love had reminded me of our early days. "You made their engagement perfect," he said. "That's who you are, Sophie. You see the value in things beyond their price tag." "My grandmother used to say that gold doesn't tarnish because it's true to itself," I replied. "I think people are the same way. We are most valuable when we're authentic." He pulled me close, his chin resting on top of my head. "You're the most authentic person I know, and the most valuable, in every sense that matters." Later that year, Mr. Vanderberg announced his retirement. "The shop is yours, and Maud's now," he said. "You two are the future. I'm just an old man ready to spend more time with his grandchildren." Maud and I bought him out over time, becoming equal partners in a business we both loved. We expanded slowly, carefully, maintaining the shop's reputation for quality and personal service. Under our leadership, Gudenhart became known not just for our inventory, but for our ability to find the perfect piece for each client. "You've built something remarkable," Lars told me as we celebrated the shop's anniversary and our 3rd wedding anniversary at our favorite restaurant. "From a sales position to full partnership. You did that, Sophie. All you." "With your support," I countered. "I was the audience cheering you on. You were the one on stage performing." He raised his glass. "To my brilliant, talented, beautiful wife, the woman who gets more remarkable every year." I clinked my glass against his, overwhelmed by gratitude for this life we'd built together. It wasn't the life I'd imagined when I was younger, devastated by Niels's cruelty. It was better, because it was built on mutual respect and genuine love, rather than fear and criticism. That night, as we walked home along the canals, Lars stopped suddenly. "Sophie, do you remember our first walk along this canal? When you told me about Niels?" "I remember. I told you I remember everyone who hurts people I care about. I kept that promise." His expression was serious in the lamplight. "Niels filed for bankruptcy last month. Lost everything, his apartment, his savings, his reputation. He's working retail now, trying to rebuild. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt mostly indifference." "How do you know?" "I keep tabs on potential threats." He paused. "But he's not a threat anymore. He's just a man who made terrible choices and is living with the consequences. I thought you should know, in case you ever run into him." The idea of seeing Niels again didn't frighten me the way it once had. I'd moved so far beyond that chapter of my life that he felt like a character from someone else's story. Thank you for telling me. But honestly, Lars, he doesn't matter anymore. He can't hurt me because his opinion means nothing. Good. Lars kissed my temple. That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. You've healed, Sophie, completely, and I'm grateful I got to witness it. We continued walking, hand in hand, talking about plans for the shop, ideas for maybe starting to try for a baby in the next year, dreams about renovating a small villa we'd seen for sale in Italy. The future felt wide open, full of possibility. What I didn't know then was that Niels had one more appearance to make in our story, that the universe had one final confrontation waiting, one last test of how far I'd come. But on that night, walking beside the man I loved more than I'd thought possible, I was simply happy. The kind of deep, settled happiness that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're meant to be, with exactly the right person, building exactly the life you were meant to live. Lars stopped me at a bridge, the one where we'd first kissed years ago. I want to renew our vows, he said suddenly. Nothing big, just us and a few close friends. In Italy, at that villa we love. Why? Because I want to promise you again, with the perspective of years together, that I choose you. Every day, in every way, I choose you, Sophie. And I want you to know that choosing you has been the best decision of my life. Tears filled my eyes. I choose you too. Then, now, always. He kissed me there on the bridge, in the spot where our story had turned from possibility to certainty, where I'd first believed that maybe, just maybe, I deserved to be loved. And as we held each other, I silently thanked my younger self for being brave enough to say yes to that first dinner, for trusting Lars enough to let him in, for choosing to see herself through his eyes, until she could finally see her own worth. The golden light of the street lamps reflected in the dark water below, and I thought about gold again, how it doesn't change, doesn't tarnish, stays true. That's what we'd built together. Something true, something lasting, something valuable beyond measure. Whatever came next, I knew we'd face it together. And that knowledge was the most precious thing I owned. The 5th year of our marriage brought changes we hadn't anticipated, but welcomed with open arms. Lars officially sold his remaining questionable holdings and transitioned fully into legitimate financial consulting, specializing in helping companies navigate international markets. His reputation shifted from shadowy to sought after, his expertise valued without the accompanying whispered warnings. I feel lighter, he admitted one morning over coffee. Like I can finally breathe without wondering which past association might surface to haunt me. You've worked hard to get here, I reminded him, reaching across our kitchen table to squeeze his hand. You should be proud. I'm grateful, he corrected. Grateful that I had a reason to change, a reason to want better. That reason is you, Sophie. You made me want to be worthy of our life together. The shop was thriving under Maud's and my joint leadership. We'd recently hired 2 additional staff members and expanded our collection to include more contemporary pieces alongside our beloved antiques. Our reputation had grown beyond Amsterdam, attracting collectors from across Europe. But the most significant change was growing inside me. At 35, I was 12 weeks pregnant with our first child. We'd been trying for 6 months, and when the test finally showed positive, Lars had wept with joy. We're going to be parents, he'd whispered, his hand spread across my still flat abdomen. We're going to have a family. The pregnancy had been relatively easy so far, just some morning sickness and fatigue that came in waves. Lars had been incredibly attentive, almost comically so, worrying about everything from what I ate to how many hours I worked. I'm pregnant, not fragile, I reminded him gently when he tried to carry groceries I was perfectly capable of managing. I know, but you're carrying the most precious thing in the world, he replied. Let me be overprotective. I've waited 46 years for this. His joy was infectious. We'd already started planning the nursery, debating names, imagining what our child might look like. Would they have my eyes or his? His height or my build? The possibilities felt endless and beautiful. It was a Wednesday afternoon in early autumn when everything shifted. I was at the shop, helping a client select an anniversary gift for his wife, when the bell above the door chimed. I looked up automatically, my professional smile ready. Niels Bakker stood in the doorway. 3 years had not been kind to him. The confident swagger I remembered was gone, replaced by hunched shoulders and nervous eyes. His clothes were off the rack rather than tailored, his hair slightly too long, his face showing the stress of his spectacular fall from grace. "Sophie," he said, my name coming out rough, uncertain. The client I was helping looked between us, sensing tension. "Is everything all right?" "Of course," I managed, keeping my voice professional. "Mr. Bakker, I'll be with you in just a moment. Please feel free to browse." I finished with my customer, taking perhaps longer than necessary to wrap his purchase while my mind raced. What was Niels doing here? What could he possibly want? When the client finally left, I turned to face my ex. "What can I help you find?" He laughed, but it was hollow, self-deprecating. "That's very gracious of you considering. I'm sure you know what happened to me." "I heard something about it," I said neutrally. "You heard, right?" He moved closer to the counter, and I instinctively stepped back. "Lars Van Dyke destroyed my life, Sophie. Systematically, thoroughly. He used his connections to expose every mistake I ever made, every corner I ever cut. Was that your idea? Your revenge for how I treated you?" "Lars made calls to people who investigate financial crimes," I said carefully. "What they found was what you actually did. No one fabricated evidence, Niels. You destroyed your own life with your choices. Because you told him to." His voice rose, and Maud appeared from the back room, her expression alert. "You whispered in his ear about poor Sophie, how I was so mean to her, and he decided to play white knight." I felt my anger rise, hot and clean. "You want to know what I told Lars?" I told him the truth. That you spent 6 years making me feel worthless while you cheated on me. That you laughed when I confronted you about it. That you told me I was too plain to deserve fidelity. That's what I told him. "And he ruined me for it," Niels spat. "No," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "You ruined yourself. You took bribes. You cut corners on safety inspections. You put people's lives at risk for profit. Lars just made sure the truth came to light. Every consequence you've faced has been earned." He stared at me, and I saw something crumble behind his eyes. I came here to see if the rumors were true. That plain Sophie de Vries had transformed herself, married some powerful man, become successful. I wanted to see if you'd turned into everything I said you could never be. And I folded my arms, refusing to be intimidated. You did. It came out bitter, defeated. You're beautiful now, confident. You own this place. You married up, got everything you wanted. While I lost everything. I didn't get everything I wanted, Niels. I became everything I already was. Lars just helped me see it. I paused, then decided to twist the knife. And I didn't marry up. I married a man who values me for who I am, not what I look like or what I can do for him. That's something you never understood. Before he could respond, the door opened again. Lars walked in, his timing either incredibly fortunate or deliberately planned. He took in the scene immediately. Me behind the counter, Niels in front of it, the tension thick in the air. "Good afternoon, my love," Lars said, moving directly to me and pressing a kiss to my temple. His hand found my waist, and I felt him pause, his fingers settling carefully over the small swell of my abdomen. "How are you feeling?" You texted you were tired earlier. The gesture was possessive, protective, and unmistakably clear. I was his. We were a unit, and Niels was an outsider to this warmth. I'm fine, I assured him, leaning into his strength. Mr. Bakker was just leaving. Niels stared at Lars with something between hatred and awe. You destroyed me. No, Lars said, his voice quiet but absolute. You destroyed yourself. I simply ensured that your actions had consequences. There's a difference. All because she told you I was mean to her. Niels's laugh was ugly. Some white knight you are, ruining a man's life over hurt feelings. Lars's expression went cold in a way I'd rarely seen. You don't understand at all, do you? I didn't ruin your life because you hurt Sophie's feelings. I made sure the truth came out because you were a criminal endangering people with your corruption. Sophie's pain was personal. Your criminality was professional. I handled both appropriately. And now you get to play happy family while you face the consequences of your own choices. I interrupted. Yes, that's exactly what's happening. And honestly, Niels, I don't feel bad about it anymore. You taught me what I didn't want in a partner, in a life. For that, I'm almost grateful. He flinched like I'd struck him. For a moment, I thought he might say something else, might try one more jab. Instead, he just shook his head and walked out, the bell chiming his exit. Silence filled the shop. Maud disappeared back into the office, giving Lars and me privacy. He turned me to face him, his hands framing my face. Are you all right? Did he threaten you? Touch you? I'm fine, I assured him. Just unexpected. But I'm fine. You were magnificent, he said, a smile breaking through his concern. Calm, confident, completely unbothered by him. That's my Sophie. You're Sophie who happens to be exhausted and suddenly starving, I admitted. Baby wants stamp pot. His laugh was genuine, the tension breaking. Then let's go home and I'll make you stamp pot. And then you're going to put your feet up while I rub them and we discuss whether we're finding out the baby's gender or waiting for a surprise. As we walked home through the Amsterdam streets I'd come to love, Lars's arm protectively around me, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. From that devastated woman Niels had laughed at to this person. Confident, successful, loved. The transformation hadn't been about surgery or external changes. It had been about seeing myself clearly for the first time, reflected in the eyes of someone who genuinely valued me. I love you, I said suddenly, stopping on the bridge where we'd first kissed. Thank you for being exactly who you are, for helping me become exactly who I am. I love you too, he replied, his hand finding my small bump again. Both of you, all of us, this family we're building. The sun was setting, painting the canal gold, and I thought about my grandmother's words one more time. Gold doesn't tarnish because it's true to itself. Looking at Lars, at our reflection in the shop window behind us, I finally understood. We were gold. True to ourselves, true to each other. Valuable not because of what we could offer the world, but because of what we meant to each other. Whatever came next, parenthood, more success, inevitable challenges, I knew we'd face it together. We'd built something that didn't tarnish, didn't change, stayed true. And that was worth more than all the gold in my shop. 7 months later, I stood in our newly renovated nursery, one hand resting on my very pregnant belly, while the other straightened a mobile for the third time. The room glowed in shades of soft yellow and cream, gender neutral, since we'd decided to wait for the surprise. Lars had insisted on hiring a designer, but I'd overruled most of her suggestions in favor of simpler, warmer touches that felt like home. You're nesting again, Lars observed from the doorway, amusement in his voice. The mobile is perfect. It's been perfect for the last 6 times you've adjusted it. I turned to face him, taking in the sight of my husband in casual weekend clothes, his hair slightly mussed, a cup of tea in each hand. At 46, he somehow looked younger than when we'd met, the lines around his eyes from smiling rather than stress. I can't help it, I admitted, accepting the offered tea. 3 weeks until my due date, and I keep feeling like something isn't ready. Everything is ready, my love. He guided me to the glider we'd purchased after sitting in 17 different options. The room is perfect. We have enough baby clothes for triplets. I've read 4 books on infant care. We're as prepared as we can be. I settled into his arms, my awkward size making it challenging but familiar. Are you scared? Terrified, he admitted. What if I'm terrible at this? What if I make all the wrong choices? Then we'll make them together, I reminded him. That's what we do. We figure it out as a team. His hand moved to my belly just as the baby kicked, a strong movement that made us both smile. She's active today. Or he, I countered. We'd been playfully arguing about the baby's gender for months. Lars convinced we were having a daughter, me insisting it was a boy. Whichever they are, they're stubborn, he said, just like their mother. And protective like their father, I added. The peaceful moment was interrupted by my phone ringing. Maud's name appeared on the screen. Sorry to bother you on the weekend, she said when I answered. But we have a situation at the shop. Water leak in the back room. Nothing catastrophic, but I need to meet the emergency plumber. I just wanted you to know. Do you need me to come in? Absolutely not, she said firmly. You're 9 months pregnant, Sophie. I can handle a plumber. Just keeping you informed. After I hung up, Lars was watching me with that knowing expression. Let me guess. You want to go check on the shop anyway? I just want to see how bad it is, I protested. 10 minutes, I promise. He sighed but stood, offering his hands to help me up. 20 minutes maximum, then home, feet up, no arguments. The shop was only a 15-minute walk, and the autumn air felt wonderful after being cooped up inside. Lars kept a protective hand at my lower back, slowing his naturally long stride to match my pregnant waddle. You know, I said as we walked, a year ago, if someone had told me I'd be this happy, I wouldn't have believed them. A year ago, you were already pretty happy, he pointed out. True. But this? I gestured to my belly, to us, to the life we'd built. This feels like something I didn't dare dream about. After Niels, I convinced myself that this kind of happiness wasn't for people like me. Lars stopped walking, turning me to face him. Sophie van Dijk, there is no people like you, and there's just you. Extraordinary, kind, brilliant you. And you deserve every happiness this world has to offer. Van Dijk, I repeated softly. I still get a thrill hearing my married name. I get a thrill saying it, he replied, kissing me softly. My wife, the mother of my child, the love of my life. We continued to the shop, where Maud was indeed handling everything with her usual competence. The leak was minor, the plumber already at work. But as we stood in the main room, I found myself looking around with fresh eyes. This place had been my refuge after Niels, the foundation I'd built my new life upon. Here, I'd learned my own value, developed my skills, created something meaningful. And now, with motherhood approaching, I was about to add another layer to my identity. Thank you, I said suddenly to Maud, for being such an amazing partner, for covering for me during this pregnancy, for everything. She hugged me carefully, mindful of my belly. Thank you for seeing potential in me when Mr. Vanderberg retired. We make a good team, Sophie. We're going to continue making a good team after this baby arrives. On the walk home, Lars and I detoured through our favorite park. Late afternoon sun filtered through golden leaves, and the canals reflected the autumn colors. We sat on our usual bench, the one where Lars had first told me he was falling in love with me. "Do you remember what you said to me here?" I asked. "That first time we sat on this bench?" "I said I was falling in love with you, and it terrified me because I'd never felt anything like it before," he recalled. "You said you were terrified too, but willing to be scared together." "Best decision I ever made," I said, leaning against his shoulder. "Second best," he corrected. "The best was saying yes when I proposed." We sat in comfortable silence, watching ducks navigate the canal, couples walk past holding hands, life continuing its beautiful, ordinary rhythm around us. This was what Niels had never understood, that happiness wasn't about grand gestures or surface beauty, but about these quiet moments of connection and peace. A sharp pain low in my abdomen made me gasp. Lars was instantly alert. Contraction? Maybe. Or Braxton Hicks. It's hard to tell. I breathed through it, remembering the techniques from our birthing class. "Okay, it's passing." "Home," Lars said firmly. "Now, no arguments." But another contraction hit before we made it off the bench, stronger this time. Lars pulled out his phone with one hand while keeping the other on my back. "It's too early," I protested. "I'm only 37 weeks. "Full term is 37 weeks, he reminded me, already calling our doctor. "This baby has their own timeline." The next few hours were a blur. The hospital, the labor and delivery room, contractions growing stronger and closer together. Lars never left my side, coaching my breathing, holding my hand, whispering encouragement when I was certain I couldn't continue. "You're the strongest person I know," he murmured during a particularly brutal contraction. "You survived Niels, built a business, learned to see your own worth. You can do this, Sophie. Our baby is almost here." 12 hours after that first contraction in the park, our daughter was born. 6 pounds, 4 ounces, with a shock of dark hair and lungs that announced her displeasure at being evicted from her warm home. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, placing her on my chest. Lars was crying, openly and without shame. "She's perfect, Sophie. She's absolutely perfect." I looked down at our daughter, this tiny miracle we'd created, and felt something settle into place. This was what I'd been preparing for without knowing it. All the healing, all the growth, all the learning to value myself. It had all been leading to this moment, to being whole enough to give this child the love she deserved. "Hello, little one," I whispered. "We've been waiting for you." We named her Anna, after Lars's mother, with the middle name Rose, after my grandmother. Anna Rose Van Dyke. She was 3 days old when we finally brought her home, both of us terrified and exhilarated by the responsibility. "We have no idea what we're doing," I said as we stood over her bassinet, watching her sleep. "Not a clue," Lars agreed, "but we'll figure it out, together." The first few weeks were an exhausting blur of feedings and diaper changes, and wondering if we'd ever sleep again. But there were moments of transcendent joy. Anna's first real smile, the way she stopped crying when she heard Lars's voice, the perfect weight of her sleeping against my chest. Maud ran the shop beautifully while I was on maternity leave, checking in regularly but never making me feel like I was needed back before I was ready. Lars took time off from consulting, both of us wanting these early weeks to focus solely on our daughter. "I thought I understood love before her," Lars said one night as we sat together, Anna asleep between us. "But this is different. This is terrifying and amazing, and I'd die for her without hesitation." "I know exactly what you mean," I replied. "It's like my heart is walking around outside my body." Anna was 3 months old when Lars surprised me with an unexpected gift. We were planning a trip to Italy, to the villa we'd always loved, for a proper family vacation. But there's something else, he said, pulling out a folder of documents. I bought it. Bought what? The villa. It's ours. I thought maybe we could make it our summer home, a place for Anna to grow up running on the beach, where we can escape Amsterdam's winters. I stared at him, overwhelmed. Lars, that's a lot, I know. But I want to give you and Anna the world, Sophie. I want us to have places where we're just a family, where my past doesn't follow us, where we can be purely happy. We're already purely happy, I said, but looking at the documents, at the photos of the villa where we'd spent our honeymoon and renewed our vows, I could picture it. Anna running through those rooms, learning Italian from the local children, growing up knowing that love looked like this. Generous, thoughtful, committed to building beautiful memories. When Anna was 6 months old, I returned to the shop part-time. Maud and I had worked out an arrangement where I handled acquisitions and special clients while she managed day-to-day operations. It meant I could be with Anna most of each day, but still maintain my connection to the work I loved. You're glowing, a regular client observed when I returned. Motherhood suits you. It did. But what suited me more was the complete life I'd built. Work I loved, a child I adored, a husband who cherished me. I'd gone from Niels's cruel dismissal to this abundance, not through changing who I was, but through becoming more fully myself. One afternoon, when Anna was nearly a year old and starting to pull herself up on furniture, I was at the shop when an elderly woman came in. She moved slowly, carefully examining each piece with an expert's eye. "Can I help you find something?" I asked. She looked up, and I saw tears in her eyes. "My granddaughter is getting married. I want to give her something meaningful, something that tells her she's valued for who she is, not how she looks or what she can provide. Do you have anything like that?" I thought of my grandmother's pendant, the one I still wore every day. "I have just the thing." I showed her several pieces, but she kept coming back to a delicate gold bracelet with an inscription inside. "True gold never changes." "This is perfect," she said. "May I tell you why?" Over tea, I'd learned from Lars the value of taking time with people. She told me about her granddaughter's previous relationship. A man who had criticized her, made her feel worthless, left her doubting her own value. The story was painfully familiar. But she met someone new, the grandmother continued, someone who saw her worth immediately. He helped her see herself clearly. They're getting married next month, and I want her to remember that she's gold, valuable, true, unchanging in her essential nature. I wrapped the bracelet carefully, adding a handwritten note about the meaning of gold, about staying true to yourself. When the woman left, I found myself crying for her granddaughter, for my younger self, for every woman who had to learn her worth the hard way. Lars found me like that when he stopped by with Anna. Our daughter had started walking, toddling unsteadily but determinedly toward anything that caught her interest. "What's wrong?" he asked, settling Anna in my lap. I told him about the customer, about the bracelet, about how grateful I was for our story's happy ending. "It's not an ending," he corrected, wiping my tears. "It's the middle. We have years ahead of us, watching Anna grow, building our family, creating more memories. This is just the beginning of our happy Sophie." He was right. At 37, with a thriving business, a beautiful daughter, and a husband who loved me completely, I was just beginning to understand my own story. It wasn't about transformation or revenge or even healing, though all of those had played their parts. It was about recognition, learning to see myself as I truly was, valuable and worthy of love. Lars had held up the mirror until I could see it myself. Anna had taught me about unconditional love, and the shop had shown me that my skills, my kindness, my eye for beauty had worth beyond what any cruel ex-boyfriend had convinced me I lacked. That evening, as we put Anna to bed in her nursery, I watched Lars read her a story in his careful Dutch, pointing to pictures and making her giggle. This man who had been so afraid of bringing a family into his complicated world had become the most devoted father I could imagine. "I love you," I said when he finished, when Anna was asleep, and we stood together in the doorway watching her breathe. "I love you too," he replied. "Thank you for giving me this, for trusting me enough to build a family, for seeing something in me worth loving." "We saw each other," I corrected. "That's what makes this work. Mutual recognition, mutual value, mutual love." As we closed Anna's door and moved to our own room, I caught sight of myself in the hallway mirror. The changes I'd made years ago had long since healed, becoming just part of who I was. But what I saw now was different from what any surgery could create. Confidence, contentment, the glow of being thoroughly loved and loving in return. I thought of Niels one last time, a ghost finally laid to rest. He'd tried to define my worth and found me lacking. But he'd been looking at the surface, missing everything of value underneath. Lars had seen deeper from the start, recognizing gold where Niels had seen only something ordinary. The best revenge, I realized, wasn't Niels's downfall. It was this: being so completely happy that his opinion no longer mattered, building a life so beautiful that his cruelty became irrelevant, being loved so thoroughly that his rejection seemed like a gift rather than a wound. "What are you thinking about?" Lars asked, pulling me close. "About gold," I said. "About how it stays true to itself no matter what. About how we're like that. True to ourselves, true to each other. Always," he promised, kissing my forehead. "For all our days." And as we stood together in the home we'd built, with our daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall and decades of love ahead of us, I knew he meant it. We were gold, valuable, unchanging, true. And that was worth more than any revenge could ever be. The story that had started with Niels's cruel laughter had ended with Lars's gentle devotion. But the real story, the one that mattered, was the one I'd written for myself, learning to see my own worth, building a life of meaning and love, becoming someone I was proud to be. That was the revenge Niels could never have anticipated. Not his downfall, but my rising. Not his suffering, but my happiness. Not proving him wrong, but making his opinion irrelevant. I was Sophie Van Dyke, wife, mother, businesswoman, survivor. And I was, finally and completely, enough. 10 years later, the morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our renovated Amsterdam apartment, casting golden light across the breakfast table, where chaos and love intertwined in equal measure. Anna, now 11, sat with her nose buried in a book about Renaissance art, her dark hair, so much like Lars's, falling across her face. Beside her, 7-year-old Thomas was constructing an elaborate tower from his toast, while our youngest, 5-year-old Elise, hummed tunelessly as she colored a picture of what she insisted was our family, but looked more like abstract art. "Mama, can I go to the shop with you today?" Anna asked, without looking up from her book. "There's a new estate collection coming in, and you said it might have Art Nouveau pieces." I smiled at my eldest daughter, this serious, brilliant child who had inherited my love of beautiful things and Lars's strategic mind. "After school, I promise." Lars appeared in the doorway, immaculately dressed as always despite the early hour. His hair now more silver than dark, but still devastating in the way it framed his face. At 55, he'd aged into distinguished rather than old, the lines around his eyes evidence of years spent smiling. "Good morning, my love," he said, dropping a kiss on my forehead before greeting each child individually, a ritual he'd maintained since Anna was born. and good morning to my 3 favorite people under 12. We're your only people under 12, Thomas pointed out with the logic of a 7-year-old. Which makes you my favorites, Lars replied, ruffling his son's hair. I watched this morning dance we'd perfected over the years, feeling the familiar swell of gratitude that still caught me off guard sometimes. This life, the children's laughter, the comfortable domesticity, the security of Lars's presence, felt like something borrowed from someone else's story. Except it was mine. Ours. Mama, why are you smiling like that? Elise asked, looking up from her coloring with paint-stained fingers. Because I'm happy, sweetheart. You're always happy, she observed with a child's simple wisdom. She wasn't wrong. At 44, I'd found a contentment I'd never imagined possible. The shop had expanded into 3 locations across the Netherlands, with Maud managing the original Amsterdam store while I oversaw acquisitions and special collections. My reputation in the antique jewelry world had grown steadily. Collectors sought my expertise, and I'd written 2 books on identifying and valuing historical pieces. But more than professional success, I'd built a family that felt like magic every single day. Lars caught my eye across the table, and I saw my own contentment reflected back. He'd fully transitioned away from his shadowy past, building a legitimate consulting empire that advised major corporations on international finance. The whispered warnings that had once followed his name had faded, replaced by respect for his business acumen and philanthropy. I have something to tell everyone, Lars announced as the children finished breakfast. I've made a decision about work. 3 young faces turned toward their father with varying degrees of interest. Anna's was intense and focused. Thomas's curious. Elise's already distracted by a bird outside the window. I'm retiring, he said simply. Effective next month. The announcement stunned me. Lars, you're only 55. You love your work. I love our family more, he replied, his gaze holding mine. And I've spent the past 20 years building something professionally. I want to spend the next 20 building memories with you, and these 3 before they're too old to want me around. We'll always want you around, Papa, Anna said, her voice carrying that earnest intensity that reminded me so much of her father. Even when you're at university in a few years? He teased. Especially then. Who else will help me understand economics? After the children were dispatched to school, Lars insisting on driving them himself, another daily ritual. I stood at the window watching the canal below, processing this unexpected news. Lars came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist and resting his chin on my shoulder. You're worried. Not worried. Surprised. You've never mentioned wanting to retire. Because I wanted to be certain before saying it out loud, he said. Sophie, I've achieved everything I set out to professionally. But I keep thinking about time, how quickly Anna's grown, how Thomas and Elise are changing every day. I don't want to miss anything else. I turned in his arms to face him. You've never missed anything that mattered. Maybe not. But I want to be present for everything, not just the big moments. I want lazy mornings and afternoon walks, and being able to take you to Italy for a month without worrying about conference calls. His hands framed my face in that familiar gesture that still made my heart skip. I want to grow old with you slowly, savoring every moment, not rushing through years wondering where they went. What will you do with all that time? His smile was pure mischief. Well, I thought I might finally learn to properly cook something besides stamp pot. Maybe take that photography course you keep suggesting. Spend more time at the villa with the children. And... He paused, his expression growing more serious. I want to write about my father, about growing up in the world I came from, about the choices that lead people into shadows, and the harder choices that lead them back out. The idea surprised me. Lars rarely spoke about his past. though he'd been honest with the children in age-appropriate ways about his previous work. A memoir? More of a cautionary tale. Something for our children to understand where I came from, and why I made different choices for them. His thumb traced my cheekbone. You changed my life, Sophie. You made me want to be better. I want to write about that transformation, about finding light in unexpected places. Tears pricked my eyes. You changed mine too. You helped me see myself clearly for the first time. Then we saved each other, he murmured, kissing me softly. Later that day, at the original Gudenhart shop, I was examining a newly acquired Art Deco collection when Maud appeared with an unusual expression. "There's someone here to see you," she said. "Says he's an old acquaintance." My heart did something complicated. There was only one old acquaintance who might appear unannounced. "Niels?" She nodded. "Should I send him away?" I almost said yes, but curiosity, and perhaps a desire for closure I hadn't realized I needed, made me shake my head. "No, I'll see him." Niels Bakker walked into my private office looking like a man who'd aged 20 years in the 10 since I'd last seen him. The swagger was completely gone, replaced by something that looked almost like humility. His clothes were neat but inexpensive, his hairline receding, his face lined with what I recognized as hard-won wisdom. "Sophie," he said, and there was none of the mockery I remembered. "Thank you for seeing me. I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't," I admitted, gesturing to a chair. "What do you want, Niels?" He sat carefully, like someone who'd learned not to take up too much space. "To apologize, properly, without excuses or explanations, just to say I'm sorry for how I treated you." The surprise must have shown on my face because he gave a sad smile. "I know it's 10 years too late. I know an apology doesn't undo the damage or the cruelty. But I've spent the past decade rebuilding my life from nothing, and in that process, I've had to confront exactly who I was." He paused. "I was a terrible person to you, Sophie. You deserved so much better, and I was too insecure and selfish to see your worth." I studied him, looking for manipulation or angle, but saw only genuine regret. What brought this on? Why now? "I'm getting married," he said quietly. "To someone wonderful who sees value in me despite knowing everything about my past. And in preparing for our marriage, I realized I needed to make amends where I could, to acknowledge the harm I caused and own it completely." "Congratulations," I said, and meant it. "I'm glad you found someone. I don't deserve her kindness any more than I deserved yours," he admitted. "But I'm trying to be worthy of it. I'm in therapy. I've made amends to everyone I harmed in my business dealings, and I needed, to apologize to you face to face. I forgive you," I heard myself say, and realized with surprise that I meant it. Not because what you did was okay, but because I don't want to carry that anger anymore. You were cruel, Niels. You made me doubt my worth at a time when I needed support. But I survived it, and arguably became stronger because of it. He nodded, relief evident in his expression. "You've done incredibly well. I've followed your career from a distance. The books, the shop expansion. You've become everything I was too blind to see you could be." "I was always capable of this," I corrected gently. "I just needed to believe it myself." "You're right." He stood, extending his hand. "Thank you for seeing me, for listening. I won't take any more of your time." I shook his hand, feeling the symbolic weight of the gesture. "Niels, be kind to your fiancé. Not because you owe me anything, but because kindness is the only way to build something that lasts." "I will," he promised. "And Sophie, thank you for showing me what grace looks like." After he left, I sat alone in my office for a long moment, processing the encounter. 10 years ago, seeing Niels had sent me into panic. Now, I felt only a distant sadness for the woman I'd been and the man he'd been. Two people who'd hurt each other in different ways. That evening, I told Lars about the visit. We were in our bedroom preparing for a charity gala we were attending, one of the few professional obligations he'd maintained. "How do you feel about seeing him?" Lars asked, adjusting his cufflinks. "Surprisingly peaceful," I admitted, fastening my grandmother's pendant around my neck. I'd never stopped wearing it, this link to the woman who'd taught me about gold and value. He apologized sincerely. I forgave him. And now I can truly let it go. Lars turned me to face him, his hands at my waist. "You're remarkable. Do you know that? Most people carry bitterness for years. You transform it into grace." "I learned from the best," I replied, adjusting his bow tie. "You taught me that holding on to anger only hurts the person carrying it. And you taught me that transformation is possible at any age, that love can heal wounds that seemed permanent." His smile was tender. "We've built something beautiful, haven't we?" "The most beautiful thing," I agreed. The gala was a glittering affair benefiting children's literacy programs, one of the causes we'd supported for years. As we moved through the crowd, I noticed how different I felt from those early events with Lars. Then, I'd been uncertain, still learning to inhabit the space his wealth and influence created. Now, I moved with confidence, born from years of experience and genuine accomplishment. "Sophie Van Dyke," a voice called out, and I turned to see an elderly woman approaching with a warm smile. "I wanted to thank you personally. The bracelet you helped my granddaughter select 10 years ago, she still wears it every day. It's become a family heirloom." The grandmother who'd bought the True Gold Never Changes bracelet. I remembered her granddaughter's story, so similar to my own. "How is she?" I asked warmly. "Thriving, happily married, 2 beautiful children, running her own business." "You were right about that bracelet. It reminds her daily of her worth." The woman squeezed my hand. "Thank you for seeing her when she couldn't see herself." After she moved on, Lars pulled me close. "You do that for people. See them clearly and help them see themselves." "Only because someone did it for me first," I replied, looking up at him. Later, as we danced to the orchestra playing vintage standards, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. From that first day in the jewelry shop to this moment. 3 children, 2 successful careers, countless memories woven together into a life that felt almost too perfect to be real. "What are you thinking about?" Lars murmured against my ear. "About gold," I said. "About how my grandmother was right. It doesn't tarnish because it stays true to itself. And how we've done that. Stayed true to who we are, both individually and together. And created something more valuable than any piece in your shop," he added. 3 somethings, I corrected, thinking of our children. 4, if you count us. The next morning, Lars made good on his retirement announcement, submitting formal notice to his clients and beginning the process of transitioning his accounts to colleagues. I watched him work through it with the same strategic precision he'd applied to everything, ensuring everyone was properly taken care of while firmly declining offers to stay on in reduced capacity. "When I make a decision, I commit to it completely," he explained when one persistent client tried to change his mind. "I'm committing to my family now the way I committed to my business before." That summer, we spent 2 months at our Italian villa. Lars enrolled in a photography course and spent hours capturing the children playing on the beach, the light on the Mediterranean, the everyday magic of our life. I worked on my 3rd book, this one about the emotional value of jewelry beyond its monetary worth. Anna thrived in the artistic atmosphere, spending hours painting in the villa's garden. Thomas discovered a love of cooking, learning from the local restaurant owners. And Elise, our wild child, collected shells and stones and declared she would open a museum. "This is what I wanted," Lars said one evening as we watched the sunset from our terrace. "This stillness, this presence. No conference calls, no emergencies, just us." "Are you bored?" I teased, knowing he'd been one of the most sought-after consultants in Europe. "Not even slightly. I'm more fulfilled than I've ever been." He pulled me into his lap, and I settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I spent 20 years building financial security so we could have this. Time. Peace. Freedom to just be together." The summer stretched golden and perfect, our children growing brown from sun and confident from freedom. Anna read through our entire villa library. Thomas learned to make fresh pasta from scratch. Elise befriended every child in the village and adopted a stray cat she named Oro, Gold. In September, we returned to Amsterdam, tanned and rested and more connected than ever. Lars began his memoir, working in his study each morning while I managed the shops and wrote my book. Our afternoons were reserved for the children, helping with homework, attending school events, simply being present in ways that busy careers had sometimes prevented. "Papa's different," Anna observed one evening as we baked cookies together, a new tradition since Lars's retirement. "Happier." "He was always happy with you," I assured her. "No, I mean, lighter, like he was carrying something heavy before, and finally put it down." My wise eldest child had seen what I'd noticed, but hadn't articulated. Lars had been carrying the weight of his past, of providing for us, of proving he could be more than his origins suggested. Retirement had freed him to simply be, father, husband, man at peace with his choices. That Christmas, surrounded by children and chaos and love, Lars gave me an unexpected gift. A leather journal filled with his handwriting, letters he'd written to me over the years but never sent. "I wrote to you whenever I was traveling for business," he explained as I paged through entries spanning our entire marriage. Thoughts I wanted to share but couldn't in a quick phone call. Memories I wanted to preserve. Gratitude for the life you'd given me. There were hundreds of entries. Observations about how Anna had her mother's kindness, how Thomas had my thoughtful nature, how Elise embodied both our stubborn wills. Reflections on how watching me grow more confident had been one of his life's greatest privileges. Promises to spend our old age holding hands and watching sunsets. I was crying by the 3rd page and sobbing by the 10th. "This is the most beautiful gift anyone's ever given me," I managed. "It's just the truth," he said softly. "Every word. You transformed my life, Sophie. I wanted you to know exactly how much and in how many ways." In response, I gave him my own gift, a gold pocket watch I'd found in an estate sale and had engraved with our wedding date and a single word: always. "Because that's how long I'll love you," I explained. "Always and completely." The years continued to unfold like petals on a flower, beautiful, inevitable, each one revealing new dimensions of our family. Anna went to university to study art history, video calling us weekly to share her discoveries. Thomas developed into a thoughtful teenager with his father's strategic mind and my creative heart. Elise remained our wild child, turning 13 with the same fierce independence she'd shown as a toddler. And through it all, Lars and I grew older together exactly as he'd wanted. Slowly, savoring every moment. Morning coffee and shared newspapers. Afternoon walks along the canals. Evening conversations that ranged from philosophy to gossip about the neighbors. The comfortable intimacy of people who'd chosen each other daily for decades. On our 20th wedding anniversary, we returned to De Koper and Plug, the restaurant where we'd had our first date. It was still there, still serving the best stampot in Amsterdam, still filled with the warmth that had made it perfect 20 years earlier. "Do you remember what we talked about that first night?" Lars asked, as we shared the same meal we'd had then. You asked me to tell you something real, I recalled. I said I was scared of letting someone close again. And I said we'd be scared together, he finished. Best decision of my life. Mine too. He reached across the table, taking my hand. At 64, his hands showed age. Slight tremors, prominent veins, sunspots. But they were still the hands that had held mine through every important moment of my adult life. I want another 20 years, he said quietly. And then another 20 after that. I want to grow properly old with you, Sophie. I want to be that couple in the park feeding ducks and holding hands and making young people believe in lasting love. Then we will be, I promised. Because what we have is gold. It doesn't tarnish, doesn't change, stays true no matter what. My grandmother's words, coming full circle. She'd taught me about gold's value, but Lars had shown me how to embody it, staying true to myself, to our love, to the family we'd built from two broken people who dared to heal together. That night, walking home along the canals we'd traversed countless times, Lars stopped at the bridge where we'd first kissed, the same bridge where he'd later proposed renewal of vows, where we'd shared so many significant moments. Look, he said, pointing at our reflection in the dark water below. I looked. In the lamplight's golden glow, I saw us, older, grayer, marked by years and joy, and the beautiful wear of a life well lived. But beneath the surface changes, we were still us. The jewelry shop girl who'd learned her worth. The businessman who'd found redemption in love. Two people who'd built something that lasted not because it was perfect, but because it was true. We did it, I said wonderingly. We built a life that didn't tarnish. We built a life that was already gold, Lars corrected. We just had to recognize it. And standing there on that bridge, surrounded by the city we loved, I knew he was right. The revenge I'd imagined against Niels had never been about his downfall. It had been about this. Being so thoroughly happy that his cruelty became irrelevant. Building a love so real that his rejection seemed like a gift that had cleared the path for something better. I'd been called too plain to love, too ordinary to deserve faithfulness. Not enough. But I'd learned the truth. I was gold, valuable, true, unchanging in my essential nature. And I'd found someone who'd recognized that from the very beginning, who'd held up the mirror until I could see it myself, who'd built a life with me that proved every day that the best revenge is not bitterness, but joy. 20 years married, 3 children, countless memories. And still, when Lars looked at me, I saw the same expression from that first day in the jewelry shop, like I was the most valuable thing he'd ever encountered. I love you, I said, the words as true at 44 as they'd been at 32. Always and completely. I love you too, he replied, kissing me there on our bridge under Amsterdam stars. My Sophie, my gold, my everything. And walking home hand in hand, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. From Niels's laughter to Lars's love. From doubting my worth to knowing it absolutely. From brokenness to wholeness to a family built on truth and kindness. The golden years, people called them. But every year with Lars had been golden, precious, valuable, true. And I had the feeling our best years were still ahead, waiting to be discovered one day at a time, one moment of grace at a time, one choice to love deeply and live fully at a time. We were gold. We'd always been gold. We just needed to recognize it in ourselves and each other. And that recognition, that mutual seeing and being seen, had transformed everything.